Say hello to a new friend on an old road. Take a two-lane trip of memories into mysteries unknown. Come along for the ride. Jim Hinckley's America. Jim Hinckley's America.
Hey, my friends, I'm glad everyone could join us this morning. We're going to have a lot of fun. If you need a dose of enthusiasm, well, that's something that Rhys Martin serves up in spades. You're going to have a lot of fun this morning. We're talking about grants, Route 66 Centennial, and Oklahoma, all kinds of good things. Mr. Rhys Martin, how are you this beautiful morning?
I am very good, sir. How are you?
God bless. It's always even better when I get to speak to you in the mornings. I was just talking about, you have, for all things, the most infectious sense of enthusiasm. And when you get together, you and Sam together, it's almost an overdose of enthusiasm. And then when you add Route 66 into the mix, it's quite a heady mixture indeed.
Well, I'm really lucky to have such a strong partner.
You are. She's an amazing gal. And, when a fella or a gal's got a good support team, makes all the difference in the world.
100%. I couldn't do anything that's happening out here in Oklahoma without the support team that I have with the association and the cities and everybody. It's just great.
Well, Rhys, you have a gift and a talent, like say with your enthusiasm. You pull people along with you. You create a network of cooperative partnerships because your enthusiasm and your belief in what you're doing, it gets people, they want to help, they want to get involved, they want to do things. That's a pretty rare attribute.
Yeah, it's just nice that we have so much out here to rally around. And, with the work that I'm doing at the National Trust, it's great to hit the road in a much larger fashion, at least for the last year or so.
Well, speaking of the National Trust, the clock is ticking. We got some, you have money to hand out. Well, you don't have money to hand out, but the National Trust does.
That's right. The National Trust has had grant rounds, a couple over the last few years, and there's one open right now for both legacy businesses and for nonprofits and public agencies for up to $10,000, no match required. And it's good for like brick and mortar restoration or just a really wide range of things. Like I know that Route 66 News just published an article about the Mellow Cream Donut Shop in Springfield, Illinois, getting some new signage that was helped to make possible with our grant. Work out at Westside Lilo's in Seligman and Spencer, Missouri, and like all over the map. So that's open until the end of the month.
Yeah, I've got the website here, savingplaces.org, Preserve Route 66 Grant Fund Guidelines. And when I publish this later this afternoon, I'll make sure that is included in the description as well. It's really important because a lot of these small businesses, let's face it, they don't have major budgets for investment. And this kind of boost is so important.
Right. And so many of the grants out there are limited to like public agencies or nonprofits. And, that's just kind of the way the grant world works. And when the trust sat down and had received this really generous bequest a few years ago, we realized there was this gap that we could try to help fill with actual small business, either legacy businesses that have been around for a while or maybe a newer business that's taken up residence in a historic building that it needs some love. So we made sure to have an option for those folks to be able to apply for this money too.
Well, Scoops on 66 here in Kingman is an example. That old 1930s diner was in pretty rough shape. And, you folks made the difference between losing that building and keeping it going for another generation.
Right. Yeah, I got the chance to visit out when I was there in April. And they've done a great job with that space.
Yeah, they've created quite a complex. Now they have Tin Can Alley on 66 open there too. It's pretty exciting stuff. What else have we got going with the National Trust now that we're getting close to the Centennial and Of course, the 250th anniversary of the United States all rolled into one here.
We've got a few irons in the fire right now, nothing quite that we're almost ready to announce. You've got to cross your T's and dot your I's on a lot of this stuff, but we're really excited about a few of the other projects we're helping with.
I hammer this idea a lot that the Centennial is not, it's not an end. It's the beginning of a new chapter as we count down to the bicentennial. And part two of that is, what better place to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States than on the main street of America? And,
right.
Yeah. Gosh, they keep you running with this job. Every time I follow you, you're somewhere else.
Yeah, I've been on the road a lot, and I'm going to be on the road a lot more. But that's the name of the game. And I'm tired sometimes, but the Centennial is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and there's nothing beats actually showing up at someone's front door and saying, "Hey, how are things going? What do you need? How can we help you?"
Yeah, if a person's got to work for a living, and most of us do, making a dollar that pays the bills and providing a service, helping people, I don't think it gets better than that, Rhys. I really don't.
I agree. I wake up every morning feeling so lucky and fortunate to be in the position.
And you've been able to really, and there again, Sam, she's been just, she dovetails with what you're doing, her work there in Tulsa. But you've really been able to build something here with what you do, tying this in with your work at the Oklahoma Association. And I know they're separate, but they're still a hand in glove situation. You get to be doubly effective.
Yeah, I mean, and again, Oklahoma's got a lot of good momentum, and it's great to look at kind of where we were at when I first got involved and where we're at now and what the future.
Well, Oklahoma, and I'm not trying to give short shift to any of the other states, but Oklahoma and then Tulsa, those two are, they've become the poster child how to do this right, how to build the necessary sense of community, the partnerships, how to sell everything on the hog, including the squeal. You guys have really, you're setting the example. You're raising the bar pretty high.
Yeah, I mean, and some people might look from the outside and think it's easy. It's not easy to get all the folks on the same page and swimming in the same direction, as well as I do. But once you start to get momentum behind you, it does get a little easier.
Yeah. It's just like falling downhill. Once you start, it gets easier. Start rolling. But yeah, people, all projects, it doesn't matter if it's photography, book writing, community development. People are quick to criticize and quick to jump to conclusions on how easy this job is. But really, it's like pushing a wheelbarrow full of folks up a hill with a flat tire. It's just not an easy proposition. And well, the good news getting involved with stuff like you do, you never have to look for an excuse to drink.
I usually keep it to gas station coffee.
Yes, I know you do. You got some stuff coming up. You're going to be, I was really excited to see you're going to be one of the keynote speakers at the Miles of Possibility in Joliet in October.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. I had the opportunity to speak last year on behalf of the National Trust, and this year coming in on Friday, still putting the finishing touches on my presentation, try to figure out how to say something different. But it's great. I love getting together with those folks, and
yeah, that is one of the most unique events on Route 66 because the focus is on the business of Route 66, networking, community development, building those partnerships. That's so it makes it a unique event. And this year it's in Joliet. Let's see, that's the weekend of the 10th. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, the 10th is actually this year my 10th wedding anniversary, and I was very lucky that I asked Samantha very nicely, "Hey, can Can we be on the road and work? And so I'm just going to have to figure out how to make that up to her.
Is she going with you to the Miles of Possibility?
Hope so. We're still trying to get the schedules sorted.
Oh, very good. That would be wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. God bless. That's great stuff. And Rhys, Tulsa, and I know Sam's been so. There again, it's not a one man show with you or Sam. It's team effort, and you like say you both are. I don't want to give you a big head so your hat don't fit, but you folks are really good at building that team. And it's Tulsa is one example of what you both have been doing. We've talked a lot about this on this program that the big cities are often overlooked by Route 66 people, travelers. And I think the reason is we have done such a good job selling Route 66 as small town America that people miss the big cities. In Tulsa, what you're doing there is changing that perception.
Yeah, when I first got involved, most people would skip Tulsa. They'd stay on the interstate. They wouldn't know why on earth they would want to go into the town proper, especially folks that come in from other countries or had gotten used to smaller towns. And so it's like, oh, well, Tulsa, it's just a bunch of stoplights, and I'll just move on down the road to Sapulpa. But the city of Tulsa invested in the corridor, which brought businesses like Buck Adams Cosmic Curios and some others to create some roadside attractions that is like, okay, well, if I get off the road and see one thing, it's going to be this. But then once they get on 66, they realize there's so much more to it. There's so much to see and do. It's been really great. Even like the Czech Republic Association, when they bring their motorcycles through, they now spend extra time in Tulsa to go to the Bob Dylan Center. So it's very much a snowball effect. And again, it's the work of so many people to get to where we are right.
It is. It is. I was really excited that you've got another new building that's been derelict for a long time there on 11th on the Route 66 corridor. That's been given a new lease on life down towards the Meadow Gold sign, is it?
Right across the street. Yeah. In fact, one of the shops in there is already opened. Mary Beth, who owns Buck Adams and Meadow Gold Mac across the street with the vintage lumberjack muffler man, moved her vintage shop there in that it was originally a Piggly Wiggly grocery store way back in like the 30s. But now it's split up into a couple different shops, including a shop called Bad Penny, which is a shop that Samantha and her mother will be opening in the next few weeks.
Oh, my. That's even more exciting.
Yeah, it's a dream they've had for a very long time. And, Samantha's still going to keep working for the city like she has, but she's long been a maker of steampunk, like upcycled jewelry, and her mom has done the same thing with clothing and furniture, and it's going to be a great addition to the corridor.
Oh yeah, most definitely. My head, Rhys, is kind of like a loose file cabinet that somebody turned the drawers upside down on. I can't help every time I hear Piggly Wiggly anymore. The first thing that comes to mind is that movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And one fellow had robbed the Piggly Wiggly in Yazoo. I don't know why that popped into my head. So, folks, pardon me on that. This last trip, when we were there for the AAA Route 66 Road Fest, that was the first time I got to introduce Judy to the Mother Road Market. That is a real template on so many levels on repurposing an historic building, community development, giving a start. It's innovative, their business plan there, giving small business owners a start without a big overhead. And then there's the cultural diversity of that is so fascinating. I'd like to see.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, please, Rhys. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the Lobeck Taylor Family Foundation that put that together, came in with this dream, like you said, of creating this incubator space for folks that want to do a food business, but maybe they're not sure how it's going to work. Maybe they're not quite ready for their own brick and mortar. So let's have a food hall where you have all of these different folks testing it out and seeing if that's really what they want to do. They have a pop-up kitchen. So if you just do it for a day or two and then kind of reset and figure out how it's working, They have a general store where if you've got like a salsa recipe or something you want to package and sell, again, to your point, it allows people to execute these kinds of things that they're passionate about without all of this overhead to see if that is truly the direction they want to go. And there have been multiple folks that have started in Mother Road Market, done really well, and then expanded and now have their own spot somewhere else in Tulsa or on Route 66. And when I talk to a lot of the big tour groups, especially if they're from Europe, by the time they get to Tulsa, they're like, where can I eat where I don't have to get something that's fried? And I point them right down the street to Mother Road Market because, like you said, it's so diverse. You've got so many different types of cuisine there you can choose from. And that entire intersection at 11th and Lewis has completely changed in the last, 6 or 7 years. And it's just really incredible. And it's a good example of how private investment can inspire other investment, and now it's a destination unto itself.
Yeah, it is. That I've been watching the transformation of that Route 66 corridor in Tulsa over the last roughly 10 years, and it's very inspirational. I encourage people a lot when I speak on economic development issues in communities, large and small. I try to encourage them to make a road trip to Tulsa. Just take time to talk to Miss Babcock there and stop at the Mother Road Market, stop at the Campbell Hotel, talk to people, but feel the vibrancy, how dynamic it is, and how excited people are, and talk to them about how these things came together. And I don't think anybody would mind if they plagiarized and modified some of the things that's been done in Tulsa for their community.
No,
I'd like to see that.
yeah, we're always happy to share. Well, here's how our grant program for neon signs works, and here's how our facade program works, and here are the people that came in and we're inspired to do this. It's we're stronger together. And I think that's most folks have heard Route 66 referred to as a linear community, and we're happy to help everybody be successful.
Yeah, like it is a small town, and it's an international community. But yeah, if we look at it in that context as a linear community, then it's like L.A. has Chinatown. Well, the Route 66 community has Tulsa, has Kingman, Seligman. They just become quirky neighborhoods in that community. The neighborhoods that give it color and a unique sense of community, I suppose. Have you ever considered, or has anyone considered putting together a guide to what Tulsa has done, explaining the facade program, the neon sign initiative, the
Well,
different
we
programs?
do have some documents, and in fact, we're putting the finishing touches on a oh, I just lost the name, but it's basically a guide for business owners along the corridor if they have like automobile centered businesses on how to spruce that up, how to, you can still work on cars, you can still have car dealerships, but here's how you go a little extra, and gives a few really good examples. I think it's called the Auto Design Guide, and that should be coming out here in the next couple of weeks. Just showing folks how folks across the corridor adaptively reuse some of these automobile centered spaces, and how can you keep doing the same thing you're doing, but kind of be a part of what's going on. So the city's had a few workshops, and I believe we recorded the last one, but I can make sure to get a link of that to you so you can send it out to everybody.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that immensely. I really would. So, what else have we got going on in Oklahoma for the Centennial? I know besides a lot of events, I'm seeing a lot of activity out in Canute, of course, Clinton, Elk City.
Lots going on. I mean, for the last couple of years, the state of Oklahoma has had a Route 66 revitalization grant active, which has funded millions of dollars of projects. So just this morning, I went out and checked up on the Blue Whale, which unfortunately right now it's completely closed to visitors, even the whale himself, because they're building a new visitor center and doing some things to the property. They're not touching the whale, though. I don't want anybody to be concerned that he's going to get damaged or destroyed. They're just working to improve the grounds around it. They got a grant from the state for almost $2 million to do that, pave the parking lot, that kind of thing. The Rock Creek Bridge in Sapulpa Similarly, it's been closed to traffic for a little while now, but they're building a park around it to activate that space and have an area you can kind of talk about the Ozark Trail and kind of how previous roads were integrated into Route 66. The city of Miami is working on wayfinding. Canute is working on a plan to restore their vintage Cotton Bowl Motel neon sign as a landmark, among other things. Just about every community along Route 66 in Oklahoma has a project they're working on to get people to stop and spend a little time.
That's really important, and this is another thing I really like about what Tulsa is doing. Communities sometimes have a myopic view of tourism as that it's about heads and beds, but it's much more than that. It's like a real estate open house. You're showcasing your community to people who might be looking for a place to live, to retire, to raise a family, or open a business. And the more inviting that the more you can show that sense of community and community investment and community pride, the more chances you have of transforming, using tourism as a catalyst for economic development.
Absolutely. I was just in Weatherford a couple of weeks ago, which is the home of the just world-class Stafford Air and Space Museum. If any listeners have been through Weatherford and not stopped, stop the next time you're through there. Like it's incredible. But Weatherford is really going all in, branding itself as Space City. There's a big astronaut statue downtown. You've got a couple of other monument signs around town. Really like embracing that identity. And you're right. Yes, it's good for tourists and everything, but it's inspirational for local businesses. And if it gets someone's attention to come to this town, they might look around and say, this is kind of a nice place. And our lieutenant governor, who's a big champion for Route 66, talks constantly about tourism being the front door to economic development.
Yeah, I've been a big proponent of that for a long time, and it's heads and beds, and the bed tax and all that's important, but it's really, to me, is almost secondary. It's the long term picture of how you revitalize these rural communities, and tourism is just crucial for breathing new life, especially into the smaller rural communities that are making some transitions or that we're trying to make a comeback.
Well, I was so heartened last time I was out in your neck of the woods. I stayed at the Aztec Motel in Seligman and got to talk to Sebastian, the owner there, and to hear his story, how he came and traveled Route 66 and then bought this little motel and fixed it up and now has this place, and he and his partner are getting involved with the Seligman Chamber and doing like cleanup projects. And again, it's really a catalyst for making the community better. I mean, and that's so incredible, because tourist dollars are great. People come in, spend some money, and move on down the road, but the real investment are the folks that come back and stay.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and his story is quite interesting. If I recall right, he's Dutch, met his American wife in Australia, if I remember right. Uh, and he does things like host a community Thanksgiving dinner for the elderly, and uh, he does so much for Seligman. That's
Yeah.
yeah. This is what it's about, and we try not to be just narrow focus just on Route 66, but using that as a template. There's the mom and pop businesses. There's more, even sometimes better small town Norman Rockwell villages on US 6, US 50, US 12, but they don't have what Route 66 has. This perception of being a linear community where people do work together. You're in Seligman, but you're working with the folks in Ash Fork and Peach Springs and Tulsa, and that's the real difference between what these other highway corridors have and what Route 66 has. Doesn't mean that they can't copy it a little bit like US 6.
Yeah, I had a really good conversation with someone that was working on a large project to talk about byways in general and how folks can kind of emulate a little bit of what Route 66 does. But there's strength in the fact that shield is recognized around the world. It's going to mean something slightly different to every person that sees it. But it all comes back to the fact that there are so many people that want to travel Route 66 itself. The road is the destination. And all you have to do if you're on the road is believe in that and, plant your flag because the world will come to your front door.
Yeah. Part two of that is it is a community and they police themselves like a small town. There are some people that get involved with Route 66 just envisioning their only challenge is how to get the money to the bank. And it's more than that. If you just come in with a focus on making a dollar and not being part of the community, your chances of survival are pretty slim. You got to come in with a business plan. You're obviously there to make a dollar, but if you come in with a passion for building and contributing to the community, you're almost assured success on Route 66.
Yeah, you got to believe what you're doing, and Michael Wallace has said it himself about of course people come to Route 66 to make a buck. It's always been a commercial road, but if
Sure.
that's your only focus, people are going to smell that before they walk in the front door, and they're going to keep going.
Yeah, and I just published a blog post about how technology is changing the Route 66 experience, like QR code walking tours, navigation apps, this Connect 66 project, all these different things that people are wanting to do. I just wrote on this, and I mentioned Route 66 has not only been because it's an economic corridor. It's had a tendency to attract grifters, but it also attracts innovators and visionaries and passionate people with a sense of community. And I think we're going to see both in spades as the Centennial comes around.
Yeah,
People are
the
going to
the
need.
real the real thing to look for is who's still here in 2027, and those are the folks that are the people that believe in the highway and its enduring message, and it's a legacy. It's not something that at the end of 26 you just pack up and go home. We're all still
Wow.
going to be here. The road still has a story to tell, and you know the next 100 years are just as important as the previous 100 years.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. I keep telling people. In fact, the Facebook group, the Route 66 Centennial, we're going to rename that January 1st to the Route 66 Bicentennial. We're going to start looking towards the bicentennial of Route 66. And aside from Angel, I probably won't be here for the bicentennial. I think Angel might, but I won't. Uh, but we can build the groundwork, the legacy, just as Cyrus Avery and others did before us. And everything we're doing right now is built on the work of Cyrus Avery, the U.S. Highway 66 Association, the Cuthberts, all these people that came before us. We're standing on their shoulders.
That's right.
So, Rhys, you mentioned the popularity of the Route 66 Shield. Now, this is not the gospel, but this stuck in my head. I attended the conference several years ago in Anaheim that gave rise to the Road Ahead Partnership, and they had a fellow from the World Monuments Fund, and he claimed that the Route 66 Shield internationally was more recognized now than Coca-Cola.
Well, that kind of thing is, I would imagine, hard to actually quantify with a hard number, but I'll take it. Whenever I talk about it, I mention it as being as recognizable as Coca-Cola and, the Mickey ears from Disney. It's just one of those things that carries with it some kind of emotional attachment, even if somebody doesn't know a thing about Route 66 or even where it is in America. They just know Route 66 represents the open road in some fashion, which, as cliche as it is, represents freedom and represents, just this idea of getting to do what you want to do and having a good time. And it's we're just again really lucky for the communities where Route 66 comes through that it's there, it's been there, and that you get to be a part of that ongoing story.
It's funny you should mention the freedom of the open road. When I was at the festival in Zlin, Czechia, the European Route 66 festival in 2018, I had a conversation with a fellow that talked about growing up behind the Iron Curtain and listening to Radio Free America and hearing the song Route 66 and watching bootleg copies of Easy Rider. And he said, to paraphrase, he said that Route 66, the American road trip, the open road, Route 66, the Harley Davidson, came to symbolize freedom for his generation, like the Statue of Liberty had done for a previous generation. I thought that was pretty powerful.
It is, and I meet with Zdenek and his group from the Czech Republic when they come through twice a year, and I hear that message from them. I hear that message from folks that come through with Wolfgang from Germany. That Route 66 means a lot to me, obviously, but it's never going to mean as much as it does to these folks, where it was literally a beacon for them in a time where things weren't so great, and now they get a chance to experience it themselves. And we talk a lot about, what's Route 66 going to mean once these older generations are gone and there's nobody left that was around when Route 66 was the only highway. But I'm a good example of that. I was born in 1981. The highway was just decertified when I was still in diapers, and the road means something to me. It's a symbol beyond its actual function. And it just has to be able to translate like that to future generations. If we're doing our job right, it will.
Elizabeth Olwig and I had that conversation a couple of weeks ago on here, appealing to a new generation. And, this is one reason I really enjoy our conversations, and like with Elizabeth and others, because to really have a connection to Route 66, when it was Route 66, you've got to be my age, right about 70 or older, to have a connection to Route 66. And obviously, that's that generation's passing, and I include myself in that. It's we're passing the torch here, and it's interesting to see your passion, and gives me inspiration. And it's interesting to watch the evolution of the road, seeing what it's becoming now that you and your generation is taking a leadership position. I find it pretty exciting and exhilarating to see the transformation, what you folks are bringing to the road.
When I was out on the road yesterday, I drove up to the Highway Cafe in Veneta and checked in at a few places, and I came across a couple from Austin, Texas, that were a little younger than me, late 30s perhaps, that were doing Route 66. They were trying to get from Chicago to Los Angeles. They didn't have 3 weeks to do it, where they stopped everywhere. But they were blown away at the experience. And the gentleman was saying, I've wanted to do this as long as I can remember. And for somebody of that age to have a long connection with Route 66, whether it's because maybe a family member was connected, or maybe he saw Cars, the movie, at a young age, and that really sat with him, whatever it is, it got him to think about Route 66 as being something he wanted to experience. And they were going to make the jump up to Las Vegas, Nevada, like a lot of people do, especially international travelers. And he said, where else in the world can you take a road somewhere where the road itself is almost like a theme park? It's this themed corridor that you get to experience. It's not just driving somewhere to get to your destination. He said, I can't think of any other place in the world like that, and I can't either. So it's as long as the developments continue to be authentic and continue to appeal to these folks that want to make their stamp on the road in a way that continues its legacy, I mean, the road's going to be here forever.
Yeah, I've heard it all described as a living museum with an overlay of Disneyland. And that's I think that's a fair enough. You get into places like Uranus Fudge Company and the quirky roadside stuff for a new generation. I think that about sums that up pretty well. It's really fascinating. I grew up on the road, and I love road trips. I don't care, US 6, 50, 12. I love road trips. But Route 66, it's the road of dreams. And in this era of Renaissance, the dreams are everything from bucket list to just quirky as hell. And as a result, that adds a dimension to Route 66 you don't find on other highways. I don't know of another highway in the United States or the world where people plan on purpose to rollerblade from end to end. I can't think of another road that encourages people to do something like that.
Agreed.
And I've met so many inspirational people. Some years ago, Rhys, about 10 years ago now, I met just an inspirational World War II veteran. So you fill in how old he was. And the short version is that after the war, 46, he was in Norfolk, Virginia. He and his wife moved to California. They picked up Route 66 in St. Louis. And all they had was a 1940 Harley Davidson and a sidecar. And they decided to recreate that trip. They lived in Florida at the time, and they were coming up to Tulsa to pick up Route 66 or Oklahoma City, excuse me. And they were working on restoring a 1940 Harley with a sidecar for this trip, and they got delayed. His wife got sick; she passed. He came up with lung cancer. They had to take out 1.5 part, a lot of his lung. The doctor told him, you're not going to be traveling. And he said, no, I'm traveling. I'm taking my wife's ashes to California. And he rigged up his sidecar with his oxygen equipment, and he was on the road. There's so many inspirational stories out there.
I agree.
Rhys, it's really always a pleasure to get a chance to visit, and we'll get these links up. I also want to call people to the attention of your delightful website, Rhys Pieces. I really enjoy what you put up on there. I enjoy that immensely. And I know with your schedule, you don't get to that quite as often as you used to, but I sure enjoy everything you put up there. And I'd like to encourage people to check that out as well.
Thank you. Yeah, folks can go to RhysFunk, RhysFunk.com. That is my long-running blog that I started way before I got into Route 66. For folks that don't know the story, I had what I call my quarter life crisis. I sold everything I owned and left the country and backpacked for 10 months. And that my love of photography came from there. My love of writing and history came from that trip. And that blog is what I used to tell people where I was at and what I was seeing, and to let my mother know I was still alive. I try to publish to it as often as I can, as I'm out on the road or I'm inspired by something. You're right, like with work and everything, I don't publish as much as I used to, but I do still try to when it makes sense, and I feel like I have something to say, and I'm not just giving a laundry list of, well, I went here today, and well, I went here today. Like it's just when I'm moved, I still post there.
Yeah, it's not just showing. That's what. Yeah, it's not just showing pictures of your grilled cheese sandwich that you're having on Friday. It's much more than that. It's much more inspirational. That's something else we should mention, I suppose, real quick too. Is in addition to the many hats that Rhys wears, he's also a very, very talented writer and an exceptional photographer. So that's another reason to check out. In fact, you've got a photo exhibit, don't you, at the Oklahoma Route 66 Museum in Clinton?
I do. The Oklahoma Route 66 Museum, and if anybody's been through there, it's this kind of large U-shaped exhibit telling the story of Route 66. And in the last little area is a rotating exhibit, usually of photography and artifacts and things like that. And currently, their exhibit has my photography that has some of my international work from that 10-month trip I just talked about, how that led into roadside interests, and then Route 66, and then where I'm at now. And so I was really, really pleased and honored that Pat Smith, the director out there, asked me to be a part of that. That will be up until summer of 26.
How are Pat and Virgil doing? I didn't get a chance to, when I came through on both legs of the trip this last year, the museum was closed. And I know Virgil gets up early, but I didn't think they'd really want me hollering at him at 4:00 in the morning. So I missed him on both legs of the trip.
Yeah, they're hanging in there, still working harder than they need to be. But you talk about passion, I don't know how they do it. They've just really created an incredible experience there and continue to find ways to make it interesting. And Pat Smith and Virgil are two people that we're, again, really lucky to be a part of the Route 66 community, because that facility wouldn't be what it is without them.
Are you aware of the S&H Green Stamp program?
I am.
History. Yeah. You know that we've got a fella that is I had him on a show a couple months ago now, and he's looking to revive that for a new generation as a digital format. And what makes it interesting, he's also looking to use that as a way to help fund things in communities, help to give back to communities. I should put you in contact with him. He's a really interesting fella.
Yeah, I
That
had a
kind of
conversation with Casey Claypool in the Illinois Scenic Byway about that some time ago, and I want to say I got an email about it at one point, but it may have been something that got lost in the shuffle. So yeah, I would. I'd love to connect with them.
Yeah, that's another thing I personally need to apologize for. Sometimes I try to hard to answer all emails, texts, and sometimes I just get inundated and buried, and things do get lost in the shuffle. It's
I,
just the nature of things, and especially when you're traveling as much as you are, and I'm sure you have days that you wake up and go, and exactly where am I?
yeah, I mean, I used to be an inbox zero guy, where it's like just get it all done, get it all filed away, and everything, and that is not possible currently. And gosh, I can't remember the last couple of days. Like I went out to dinner with Samantha and we had a great time, and I had received 12 emails in 2 hours. And this was like an evening. And it's not like these were spam emails. These were all things I needed to handle in one form or another. And it's, but that's what we signed up for. That's the Centennial right now. You've got a lot of action. You've got a lot of people trying to get some attention and figure out how they can plug in. And I just take a breath, and I understand that this is a unique time, and it's, it can be exhausting, but when we get to 2027, it'll all be worth it.
Oh yeah, it really, really will be. And next year. I get a lot of questions, and I've done. That's another thing. Flooded with requests for interviews about 2026. And to be honest, I have absolutely no clue what to expect. We've got economic issues, some storm clouds. We've got some international tourism storm clouds. At the same time, we've got people that are just, I mean, they're more excited than somebody that got a new puppy for Christmas, waiting for 26. And we got people that have been planning to make a Route 66 trip for uh, they've been waiting 5-10 years for this event, and they're planning trips. I've been getting inquiries from people with Model A clubs. You've got a very active Model A club there in Tulsa, as a matter of fact.
Hmm.
Jackie Dunn, I believe you spoke with him before.
Yes.
And we're going to have him on the program, as a matter of fact, on September 28th, talking about the Model A Club, Model A Ford, the appeal of Model A's, and some of their planned adventures in 26. But I've been getting inquiries from the Studebaker Drivers Club, Model A Ford Club of America, Ryan Thiebolt, he's passionate about Model T's and A's, all looking for information about 26 and planning road trips, all or part. So next year I really don't know what to expect. I just know it's going to be interesting.
I agree, and I can relate to a lot of that. One thing I can say that is going to happen is I am helping organize a national caravan in June that's going to start in Santa Monica and go to Chicago. We're going to go west to east so that we encounter more travelers organically as we go. That's going to serve as kind of a long parade in the vein of like the Will Rogers Highway Caravan from '52. And I'm working with my counterparts in all of the 8 Route 66 state associations to put it together, figure out what makes the most sense for stops. Right now, the schedule is about 19 days to get from end to end. But again, we're putting it together so that you have a core group of about 10 to 12 cars that do the whole thing, a car representing each state, a car representing the National Commission and the international community. And other people can join and leave as they want to. But that
Sure.
way, at least this core group will come through each of these communities, and even the smallest towns get a moment that's just for them, where we come through, we wave, they get to take pictures, and then we scoot on down the road to the next place. So folks can go to route66caravan.com. And it's just kind of a landing page now, not a ton of information there. But it's got its own Facebook page and Instagram account, and we're working on getting some of those details together so we can start broadcasting out the itinerary.
Oh, I look forward to hearing more about this. Will you be? You mentioned it's going to be in June. Will that include the AAA Route 66 Road Fest in Tulsa?
Well, we're
As
trying to figure out what's going to make the most sense. Originally, we were going to be leaving Santa Monica on Saturday 6/6 because that felt like a great marketing move. But there's a huge event in West Hollywood that weekend that'll close down Santa Monica Boulevard. So we're having some discussions with some folks there locally with the cities to figure out what again will work best. And I don't know if we'll be in Tulsa in time for Road Fest. I know I got to be back in Tulsa for it because I got a booth to run. But yeah, we're figuring that all out.
Another one that's pretty interesting. I just had a meeting with Marlo Anderson. I just sat and talked with him. He's the fellow behind the National Day Calendar and programs like that. And he's wanting to do a week-long Route 66 thing to coordinate with National Road Trip Day. So it'd be sometime in May. And he's looking at doing something, probably starting in Albuquerque and spending 5 days on the road, either heading east or heading west. It's still kind of vague, but that's another exciting development on the road.
Tulsa's big event for the Centennial on May 30th, they are going to try to break a world record for the most classic cars through an intersection. And that's more than 2,500 cars that they're going to have to get together and count and drive on a little parade through town. So that's going to be a big deal. Of course, you have the national kickoff in Springfield, Missouri on April 30th. So you have a few flags that are planted in the ground across the country. And the Road Ahead and a few of these other groups are encouraging. If folks do have events they want to include on the national event calendar, route66centennial.org is the landing page for that.
Oh, excellent stuff. Hey, Rhys, I really, really appreciate you taking time from your busy schedule and from Sam and the puppy, taking time to visit with us this morning and share some of this. I hope we've inspired at least one road trip coming soon with Route 66, at least as part of it. It's transformative, in a Route 66 adventure. And if you really want to get ambitious and crazy and, either having a quarter life crisis or a midlife crisis, and you want to help write a new chapter on Route 66, well, there's a couple places for sale. They're still open, still going for business, but the Wagon Wheel Motel in Cuba is going up for sale. And David Brenner's Roadrunner Lodge out in Tucumcari are both up for sale. It's your chance to write a new chapter in your life and a new chapter in Route 66's story.
The road keeps evolving, and it takes new caretakers all the time.
Yeah, it does. Next time you get out this way, you're going to have to see what they've done next to Scoops on 66. They've renovated that gas station on the corner, that 1930s gas station. And I think it was there when you were here, but Tim and Lenora went as far as Pennsylvania to get original mobile Pegasus to put on the front of the building. And then they found the strangest looking gas pump I've ever seen. It's a 1919 mobile gas pump they put out front. And they've rented it to a fascinating lady who started a bicycle museum and a bicycle rental company.
That's cool.
Another different chapter in the Route 66 story.
Well, I plan to come out for the Roadrunner Retreat relighting out in Chambliss, California in November. So that'll be a good time to stop by.
Now that's another example of things like I put the Roadrunner neon in the same category as the Painted Desert Trading Post. I am so glad that we have passionate people willing to work on these projects. But my gosh, talk about remote, in the middle of nowhere kind of projects. But that just shows the spirit of Route 66 and the Route 66 community.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something the National Trust helped get Benjamin Moore interested in, helping with the paint. It's not just the small volunteers. You can inspire some of these big players to be a part.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, I worked. When Dave Clark was still with us, we worked together, putting together an itinerary for Nissan Canada. Had taken automotive journalist down the road in the new Nissan Kicks, by the way, and they were filming commercials and doing articles about it. What better place to test a car named the Kicks than getting your kicks out on Route 66?
It's made for it.
Anyway, yes, it is. Rhys, please give my regards to Sam and thank you again for doing this morning.
My
But
pleasure.
really,
Anytime, sir.
I sure don't want to, like say, give you a big head, but God bless you. You and Sam are truly, really are inspirations. Your selfless giving, your passion, and your ambition, and it's really appreciated. Uh, Carl, I think that's a great idea. Route 66 S&H Green Stamp Museum and Redemption Center. I'll bet you they could find a place for that in Tulsa.
There's
Uh,
buildings for sale in Tulsa.
yes, yes, there is. I was really surprised to kind of get a sidetracked when I was talking to him with about the S&H green stamps. I did not realize that this went back well over 120, 130 years. This program, I was pretty surprised by that. Goes to show you, if you're not careful, you learn something new every day.
In
My friends, I want to thank you and I want to encourage you. I hope everybody can join us next week. We're going to visit with John Paget, the documentary film producer that's working on a Route 66 Centennial film. And we're going to be talking about his Kickstarter program, how you can get involved, be a part of this. John was just here in Kingman a couple of nights ago. And he's headed your direction, by the way, Rhys. I'm sure he's been in touch with you, or he will be.
Yep. Looking forward to seeing him.
Yeah, him and his wife are another passionate duo out there on the road. And then on the 28th, we're going to be talking with Jackie Dunn with the Model A Ford folks in Tulsa. I think you're going to enjoy this. For me personally, I'm looking forward to this because Rhys mentioned his quarter life crisis. I don't know what you call it when you're looking 70 square in the eye and you start having one of those episodes. But I've decided I have to have a Model A Ford pickup and I have to drive Route 66 end to end. So I have a soft spot for Model A Fords. So me personally, I'm going to really enjoy a visit with Jackie. I've never had a Model A. I have always, when my dearest friend, my wife, Judy, and I were courting, I'd come in off the ranch. I was driving a 1946 GMC, and I had a 26 Ford touring car we would double date in. So I've had Model Ts. For a while, I had a 1915 Dodge that I drove back and forth to work until the police made me park it because, well, when I drove it, people thought it was on fire. It smoked a tad bit. So Model A's, I've never had one, but I'm passionate about them. And so I'm really looking forward to that conversation. And the week after, we're going to be talking to Cheryl Jett and Debbie Jo Erickson about the Models of Possibility Conference, its origins, history, and all the exciting things they got going this year. If you can make it to the conference in Joliet, I highly recommend it. You will find lots of inspiration from people like Rhys and photographer David Schwartz, uh, Scott Dahl of Springfield, Illinois. It's just a great networking opportunity. It's an incredible opportunity to. It's the only event I know of that's like the old U.S. Highway 66 conventions. It's the business of Route 66, but you can't get these kind of people together and not have some fun as well. Do we have any questions for Rhys before we bid him adios? Jessica and Mike are headed for Neon Fest. Will you be there, Rhys?
I hope so.
Jim,
It's on my calendar, and as long as something else doesn't come up that I can't move, I will be there because I've missed it the last year or two, and it's always I've told folks by the time I get to the end of 2026, I'm going to, fall apart like the Bluesmobile at the end of the movie. But I got to learn to take time for myself.
Rhys, yes, you do, because I had an old cowboy tell me when I had this quarter life crisis and I thought rodeo was a good idea. I had a cowboy told me that even if you enjoy it, it's a good living, especially if you don't plan on living long. Fellas got to slow down a tad bit. A tad bit indeed. Rhys will have a booth at AAA Route 66 Road Fest. That's the third weekend in June, I think, next year.
That sounds right.
We'll have information on that. We'll have information up on that. I will have. I just had a question here about the grant. I'll make sure that there's a link on my website, and we'll get that included in the when I post this today, when I publish the podcast. Denny Gibson's with us this morning. He said he's just registered for Miles of Possibility.
Great. So it'll be good to see you again, Denny.
Denny has quite a story to tell, and let's see what else we've got here. Well, this is interesting. Other than it says, what is Rhys plan on driving for the caravan next year?
So that's a good question. I have my 2005 Mustang, which belonged to my father. It now just rolled over 235,000 miles. I don't know that that's going to be the right thing to do. So I'm currently talking to some folks about potentially sponsoring some vehicles, because if we can get like maybe a dealership per state to sponsor a car for the trip or something in return for having a wrap on it or some magnets or something like that, that will reduce expenses. But we're still trying to figure out what's going to make the most sense, whatever it is.
Yeah. Let's see. If I remember right, I may be off. A year, but I believe 26 is the 100th anniversary of Chrysler. Maybe they would be interested in a nice high-profile promotion.
Well, like the 1952 Will Rogers Highway Caravan was a whole bunch of Fords that did that. So that's what served as the inspiration. But again, with Route 66 being about the little guy in the small towns, who's to say, a small town dealership wouldn't say, hey, here's a car, take it with you, and just make sure you tell everybody where it came from.
Yeah.
As a way to kind of help them out. So, we'll see.
Well, there's always a Model A Ford. I just added a week or two to your caravan tour. Rhys, again, thank you, and I sure want to thank everybody who joined us this morning. I've really, gosh, my head's just swirling with ideas and thoughts. And I blame this on Rhys, because every time we talk, when I walk away, I've always got my head's filled with ideas. So I'll be sharing a few of those. Much to your, might be some dismay there, but when I start spilling things here. Rhys, please say hello to Sam, and take care of yourself now, and do take time for yourself.
Will do, sir. Good to talk to you as always.
You bet, sir. Bye-bye. My friends, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I just can't say enough about Rhys and Sam and their enthusiasm. When I get just wore out, tired, frustrated, beat down, I usually I find a way to listen to Rhys or read some of the stuff that he's written. And I'll wrap this up with something else. Rhys Associated and Jim Associated. New book. It's a Route 66 anthology, Route 66 100 Years. And what we do here is it's a shared adventure. I never want any of the things we do, including this podcast, to be just a Jim show. And this book is another example. I'm really excited about this. It was written by some very, very good friends that are talented and passionate about the Route 66 community. Greg Hassman, Rhys Martin, Cheryl Eicher-Jett, Joe Sonderman, Dries Bessels. And it was kind of a dream project of mine. because we got to chronicle the entire history of Route 66 in each state, but also the overall history, going all the way back to the 1830s, the American plan, the Senator Henry Clay, and how this evolved and through the bicycle mania and gave rise to the national highway system and Route 66. And then the evolution of Route 66 from highway to icon and maybe a glimpse of its future. I do have one embarrassing thing to say about the book, and I don't, trying to be delicate here. They had a space to fill in the book, one page, so please forgive us. I'm sure it was just an oversight, but for some reason, we have ended up with a picture towards the front of what is basically Monument Valley. They were just trying to fill a blank space. And other than that, the book is 100% Route 66. And I think you're going to really enjoy it. And it's available for pre-order now, and I believe it's coming out in about 4 weeks, if I remember right. But you can find pre-order information on the Jim Hinckley's America website. My friends, as always, thank you. It's great to get together at our little virtual diner on Sunday mornings. I just wish we could do it in person. But for a lot of you folks, I know our paths cross here and there, so I look forward to seeing you on the road or here next Sunday morning. Until we meet again, my friends, I will bid you adios with a little tune from Joe and Woody and the boys of the Road Crew at roadcrew66.com. If you need a theme song for your road trip or a little road trip inspiration with some music, check out roadcrew66.com. And don't forget
Say hello to a new friend.
to check out the website for a grant if you have a business on Route 66.
Take a two-lane trip.
Take a look at what the Oklahoma Route 66 Association is doing and check out rhysfunk.com.
Come along for the ride. Jim Hinckley's America. Jim Hinckley's America.